Hey everyone, welcome back to my Lego City. I wanted to give you a little update today on some stuff that's been done in the somewhat recent past, stuff that was live streamed with some major changes that have occurred since I took a little bit of a break from doing the YouTube update. So the major deal is that this whole conversion to being able to walk down the center is fundamentally complete, the main foundation of it, which basically breaks the city into two sides now, right? There's this industrial zone over here, which also has a zoo inexplicably in it because I want it there, because I decided to put it there. But then over on this side is more of the, you've got the downtown there and then a little bit of residential coming out to the beach over here. Just, two different zones. And ultimately it was a little bit difficult to figure out how to make the transition between those two. And with the changes that I did to the rail lines, I had a weird thing going on down there. So the main rail loop is for the largest side of the city, and it's more freight focused. And, all the freight trains and things would go around there. There's the freight classification yard out here. And that loop comes out to here. So it's actually this line. And I needed to do a turnaround in a relatively small space. When I was making my changes, I did not want to move the main yard, and it just didn't leave me with a lot of space to turn a train around. And I ended up looping it here. So this line here goes back around there and then comes back. And that just didn't feel satisfying to me, having this fairly tight turnaround without having something to block it. So I put something here to block it. All of this is new. This was all almost entirely built live in live streams. It was slow work. It was done without a whole lot of planning. It was done, just freehand. So there is Duplo underneath, and a lot of burps, big ugly rock pieces, as you can see on top of that. But there's a weird thing that goes on with it, because this right here is connected over to there. But I just said that this loops around. Well, there's the switch. There's a switch right there. By default, trains will go all the way over to the other side and then go out there. But there's another switch there also. So I've got a connection going out that way. And then I've got a connection going out that way. They can turn this into a much larger loop. So a single train can still go all the way out to here, around down there, back out, all the way out to the edge of the table, all the way out there, cut through here, and then go all the way down to the other side of the table. So you can do the long route, or you can just have two trains going, or I can just have two trains going simultaneously, one on the left side of the city, one over on the right side of the city. And it was important to establish this kind of barrier between the two zones, and also, like I said, to kind of hide that rapid turnaround to make it look better. And also this gave me an opportunity to bring in some additional terrains, as I did not have a whole lot of elevation change going on throughout this place. A bunch of stuff went into this, kind of the design of it, the design of the terrain. Let me actually move to the other side. Yeah, there we go. I didn't want it to look like just a lump of plain rock. If you look down towards the base, the base isn't fully smoothed in, but the top is in better shape. I could add a ton of little details onto it and small pieces, one by one, plates to cover up some of the open studs and more cheese slopes, but I think I put enough time into it for now, so I'll come back to it later. But I didn't want it to look like just a big plain gray thing. I definitely wanted to have some foliage on it, and I wanted to experiment a little bit with bringing in some different colors of minerals in the ground itself. So the rock work has not only just the dark gray, but also some old dark gray, which made for, because I had a bunch of those and I just didn't know what to do with them. I really don't have a lot of the old colors in my city. I like the newer colors and they're more available, but since I did have some of these, it was nice to use them as a bit of a transition over to the dark tan. And I had a bunch of the dark tans I needed to figure out what to do with. It's a relatively cheap thing. Not a whole lot of people use the dark tan big ugly rock pieces, and I had some, so it was definitely time to use some up. And I put a whole lot of thought into kind of the geology of this, how this would have formed in, if this was a real place, how it would have formed in the first place, and then how also it would have eroded over time. You know, so how the rocks themselves would have formed, and then how they would have eroded away to leave us with the surface that we see now. And with that, I thought about kind of mineral distributions and how there would be different plant life depending upon exactly what the ground was made of, where a given plant was. Now this right here is right now very flat and straight and obvious. That's going to get kind of feathered over with some foliage, so it won't be quite as obvious. But from most angles, you don't see that. And I also thought about water and drainage. So when it rains, what happens? Where does the water go? And where does that collect, and how does that affect also how the plants will grow? So for instance, over here on this edge, you got some dry areas. But then down in here, you have actual collection of standing water. And you can see that the water is there, well, at least the dampness is there, the moisture is there pretty much year round. Probably the pond expands and goes away depending upon how much precipitation there has been, but you get different types of plants down there. And I just had a lot of fun with that. It's not perfect, but I ended up being fairly satisfied with it. And again, it gives me some more elevation change. Now the entire city obviously is still rather flat. It's going to look a lot less flat as I get more buildings into it, but that's okay. I'm not mad at it. Another thing that this does, it's really nice, is provide some backdrop to the mall. So I've actually also started to do some major reorganizing and rethinking of how the mall and this end of the city over here on the more less industrial area, I guess, where it previously was going to be a transition as we come closer to the city center, and how that will be done. I used to have the street coming down here, and then the street would go all the way down the edge and would connect all the way over to here. There was a street that went all the way through. I took all those road plates out, which gave me so much space back, so much space to build and to put things, and to give pedestrian space to be interacting. So this over here is going to turn into a whole little open mall complex. It's not just going to be the mall itself and then some other buildings with streets all around them. Instead, all of this is going to remain pedestrian access only, including around the side here. Where you see this large base plate, there are going to be some smaller buildings put here all together, and it'll be kind of like an open outlet kind of space. I think most of that will be single story. There might be some double story sections to it, but I don't want to block our view of things too much. I still want to be able to see relatively easily things going on back there down at the ground level. And also parking is moved off street. So for the first time, I'll have just a little bit of space over here that makes sense, since this is kind of a destination where there'll be just a little bit of off-street parking where I can put a lot more cars, and you can just feel more safe and more convenient for everybody. But the main thing that I wanted to show you here was just this, since I had not done a video about it. Hopefully that's enough for now, but you'll see it more in the future. Thank you very much for watching though. Stay tuned for more updates. Bye for now.